My guest on the Europe Conversation this week is Canadian Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly. She says Europe and Canada must retaliate against Trump's tariffs, and Canada
Donald Trump's tariffs aren't just hurting Americans. They're souring America's relationships with our allies, straining intricate alliances that were...
By the end of this decade, the roads of North America will tell a story of betrayal and triumph. Will Tesla's empire crumble under the weight of a fractured alliance? Or will a new power rise from the ashes of this tariff war? It all started with a single, earth-shaking move. U.S. President Donald Trump, never one to shy away from bold strokes, stood before the nation and unleashed a policy that's rewriting the rules of trade. A 25% tariff on all cars not built on American soil, effective April 2nd, 2025. His justification is as straightforward as it is divisive: protect American jobs, resurrect U.S. manufacturing, and stick it to countries he claims have been leeching off the U.S. economy for too long. The White House isn't mincing words. They're projecting this tariff will generate $100 billion in annual revenue, a figure tied to the staggering $240 billion worth of cars imported last year. That's nearly 8 million vehicles, accounting for roughly half of all used car sales. This isn't a tweak to the system. It's a full-on demolition of the status quo. But let's peel back the layers. The U.S. auto industry isn't some isolated fortress. It's a sprawling network of supply chains stretching across borders, especially into Canada and Mexico. Trump's tariff slams right into that reality, targeting Canada's auto sector with surgical precision. Canada, a linchpin in North American car production, isn't just a bystander here. It's a primary casualty. And they're not sitting quietly. The Canadian Transport Minister fired the first retaliatory shot. All rebate payments for Tesla vehicles are frozen, a move that's less about economics and more about sending a message. Relations between Trump's administration and Canada have soured to the point where buying a Tesla north of the border feels like an act of betrayal. Trump's doubling down, framing this as a patriotic crusade. He's promised zero tariffs for U.S.-made cars, dangling a carrot for domestic manufacturers while swinging a stick at everyone else. The administration argues this will spark a renaissance in American factories, pumping life into Rust Belt towns and cutting reliance on what Trump calls the ridiculous cross-border supply chain. But the cracks are already showing. Analysts are sounding the alarm. This could drive up car prices by 10 to 15%, slash profits, and stall sales across the board. Even U.S. giants like Ford and General Motors aren't immune. They source critical parts from abroad, and those costs are about to skyrocket. The markets felt the tremor immediately. General Motors shares nosedived 8% in a single morning. Ford shed 3%, and Stellantis, the parent of Jeep and Chrysler, took a 4% hit. Investors are spooked, and for good reason. This isn't just a policy shift. It's a gamble with an industry that employs millions and drives trillions in economic activity. Electric vehicle makers like Tesla and Rivian, though, bucked the trend with modest gains. Why? Trump's tariff tilts the playing field toward U.S.-based production, and Tesla's American factories give it an edge. Or so it seemed. That edge dulled fast when Canada clapped back, proving this war won't spare anyone, not even Elon Musk's golden child. Trump's tariff bomb has landed, and the shockwaves are just beginning to spread. Canada didn't waste a second licking its wounds. When Trump's tariff hit, Prime Minister Mark Carney, former Bank of England governor turned Liberal Party leader, stormed into action. He called an emergency cabinet meeting, and what came out wasn't a plea for peace. It was a declaration of war. The old relationship with the United States is over, Carney announced, his voice carrying the weight of a nation fed up with being collateral damage. This isn't just rhetoric. It's a funeral for the economic and security ties that defined U.S.-Canada relations for decades. The 1965 Canada-U.S. Automotive Products Agreement, a cornerstone of cross-border trade, is now a relic in Carney's eyes. The most important deal of my lifetime, he called it, before vowing to bury it under a mountain of retaliatory measures. Ottawa's counterstrike is brutal and calculated. Canada's rolling out tariffs worth over $30 billion US, targeting U.S. goods with precision to inflict maximum pain. But the real headline grabber? a direct assault on Tesla. The Canadian government froze $43 million in EV rebates for Tesla vehicles, a move sparked by suspicions of foul play. Authorities uncovered thousands of last-minute rebate requests from Tesla just before Canada's zero-emission program expired. Requests so voluminous, they'd equate to selling 2 cars every minute, round the clock. It reeks of desperation, or worse, and Transport Minister Chrystia Freeland isn't having it. She's banned Tesla from future rebates, calling Trump's tariffs illegal, and framing this as a stand against U.S. bullying. Carney's vision goes beyond tit for tat. He's pushing a radical overhaul, a Canadian economy free from Washington's chokehold. Speaking to reporters in Ottawa, he laid it out. Canada must redesign its industries, starting with autos, to survive Trump's onslaught. This means the government and businesses teaming up to rewire supply chains, rethink trade partners, and build something Ottawa can own. The stakes are existential. Canada's auto sector employs tens of thousands, and losing it to U.S. tariffs isn't an option. Carney's even shifted his election campaign, scrapping old plans to focus on this fight ahead of next month's vote. He's betting his political future on convincing Canadians they can thrive without their southern neighbor. The timeline's tight. Trump's tariffs kick in on April 2nd, and Canada's response is expected to follow like clockwork. Experts predict Ottawa's full tariff package could dwarf the initial $42 billion, setting a new benchmark for retaliation. This isn't just about money, it's about pride, sovereignty, and survival. Carney's blunt in French and English. We're done with these tariffs. He's betting Canada can keep its auto industry alive, but only if it breaks free from the US-led system that's now a liability. The old days of seamless integration, shared economies, tight military bonds are ashes. Canada's striking back, and the US won't know what hit it until the dust settles. Now let's zero in on Tesla, the electric juggernaut caught in this cross-border crossfire. At first glance, Trump's tariff looked like a gift. A 25% tax on foreign cars boosts US-made EVs, and Tesla, with its sprawling American factories, seemed poised to cash in. Shares crept up while Detroit's old guard, GM, Ford, Stellantis, bled out. Investors saw a lifeline for Musk's empire, a chance to hedge against the chaos. But that optimism evaporated faster than a Tesla battery in a drag race. Canada's retaliation flipped the script, and now Tesla's not just in the hot seat, it's on fire. Canada's $43 million rebate freeze is a body blow. It's not just the cash, peanuts to a company worth billions, it's the signal. Ottawa's done with Tesla, and the reasoning stings. Those last-minute rebate requests, thousands of them, clocking in at an absurd rate, scream either incompetence or fraud. Transport Minister Freeland called it out, slamming the door on Tesla's rebate eligibility and tying it to Trump's illegal tariffs. This isn't random. It's personal. Elon Musk's bromance with Trump, amplified by his role in the Department of Government Efficiency, has painted a target on Tesla's back. Canada's not just punishing a company, it's punishing a symbol of Trump's America. The damage is piling up. Tesla's shares tanked 9% in a single day, outpacing broader market losses. S&P 500 down 4.2%, NASDAQ off 4.5%. This isn't a blip, it's a trend. Sales are cratering in China and the EU, where competition's eating Tesla alive. BYD, China's EV titan, overtook Tesla in 2024, delivering more electric vehicles and raking in more revenue. How? Affordable models like the Dolphin, slashing prices by up to $30,000 below Tesla's Model 3 in markets like Thailand. Musk's been promising a budget EV for years, latest ETA, mid-2025, but it's vaporware while buyers flock to BYD's real cheap rides. Musk's political stances aren't helping. His loud alignment with Trump, his ex-posts poking at global leaders, have turned Tesla into a lightning rod. Foreign governments are targeting U.S. firms, and Tesla's the poster child. Canada's move could inspire others. Imagine the EU or China piling on. Tesla's global footprint is lopsided, huge in the US and Europe, barely a whisper in Africa or South Asia. BYD's eating its lunch elsewhere, claiming 70% of Brazil's EV sales last year. Canada might ditch Tesla for BYD, or Mexico's Alinea project. This isn't just a trade war hit. It's a fight for Tesla's soul in a market it no longer dominates. This isn't a two-player game. The world's got skin in it, and the fallout's spreading like wildfire. Trump's tariff isn't just a U.S. Canada brawl, it's a Molotov cocktail tossed into global trade. Brazil's President Lula didn't hold back. This threatens free trade and multilateralism. The EU's Ursula von der Leyen echoed him, pledging to shield consumers and businesses from the chaos. Germany's auto industry boss, Hildegard Müller, laid it bare. These tariffs will cost growth and prosperity everywhere. She's not wrong. North America's auto ecosystem, U.S., Canada, Mexico, is a trillion-dollar beast, and Trump's hacking at its arteries. The numbers tell the story. The U.S. imported $240 billion in cars last year, with Canada a massive slice of that pie. Add Mexico, and you've got a supply chain so intertwined that untangling it risks collapse. Canada's counter tariffs, $42 billion and counting, could trigger a chain reaction. Trump's not stopping there. He's warned the EU of much larger penalties if they team up with Canada to skirt his rules. This is power politics dressed up as economics, a chessboard where nations flex muscle, and the pawns are jobs, prices, and entire industries. Consumers are the first casualties. Analysts predict car prices jumping 10 to 15% as costs cascade through supply chains. A Ford F-150 built with Canadian parts? More expensive. A Honda Civic assembled in Ontario? Same deal. Jobs are a mixed bag. U.S. manufacturing might gain a few thousand positions, but Canada's auto sector, supporting 80,000 workers, could bleed out. Germany's Mueller warns of a ripple effect. Higher costs for automakers worldwide, slower innovation, and a hit to consumers already stretched thin. Then there's the geopolitics. Trump's tariff is a middle finger to decades of trade pacts. NAFTA's ghost is howling. Canada's not just fighting for its economy, it's fighting for dignity after years of playing second fiddle. The EU's watching, weighing whether to pick a side or build its own wall. Tesla's the canary in this coal mine, a U.S. titan taking hits from Canada's fury. If this escalates, we're looking at a fractured North America, a wounded global auto market, and a new era of economic nationalism. The stakes? Billions in trade, millions of livelihoods, and the unraveling of alliances once thought unbreakable. So where's this headed? April 2nd, 2025 is ground zero. Trump's tariffs land, Canada's retaliation hits, and the dominoes start falling. Ottawa's got choices. Stick with BYD's budget EVs, pivot to Mexico's Alinea project slated for 2026, or gut it out with a reimagined auto sector. Mark Carney's not bluffing. We're done bending to the U.S. He's pushing a Canada-first economy, one that can stand tall without Washington's shadow. The clock's ticking, and the world's waiting to see who blinks. Tesla's in a bind. Musk's promised budget EV, supposedly mid-2025, is a lifeline it can't afford to miss. But BYD's not waiting. They're set to dominate 2025, building factories globally and slashing costs. In Brazil, they own 70% of the EV market. In Thailand, their Dolphin undercuts Tesla by $30,000. Canada might lean on BYD, or Mexico's Alinea, a homegrown EV aiming to rival Chinese imports. Alinea's a long shot, hampered by cash shortages and a weak lithium industry, but it's a middle finger to both Trump and Tesla if it works. The broader picture's grim. A shattered U.S. Canada alliance isn't just possible, it's probable. Trade worth billions hangs by a thread, and the EV market's up for grabs. Tesla's fighting to stay relevant, but its U.S.-centric focus leaves it exposed. BYD's global sprawl, Latin America, Southeast Asia, gives it an edge Tesla can't match. Mexico's Alinea could tip the scales if Canada buys in, sidelining U.S. brands entirely. Trump's betting on American grit, banking that tariffs will force the world to heal. Canada's betting on resilience, hoping to outlast the storm. Tesla's caught between them, a lightning rod for both sides' fury. This war's just starting, and the body count, jobs lost, prices hiked, alliances broken, will climb fast. April's the spark, but the fire could burn for years, reshaping economies and rewriting the rules of power. The U.S. Canada tariff war was already a powder keg, but now China's tossing in a match. As of April 8, 2025, Beijing's made it crystal clear they're not bowing to what they call blackmail from Trump's tariff escalation. This isn't just a side skirmish, it's a full-on global trade war erupting, with the world's second-largest economy vowing to fight back. Trump's latest salvo? A threat to slap an additional 50% duty on Chinese imports, announced just days after China matched his initial 34% reciprocal tariffs from April 2nd. The stakes are skyrocketing, and the fallout's hitting everyone from Wall Street to Shanghai. China's Commerce Ministry didn't mince words. The U.S. threat to escalate tariffs is a mistake on top of a mistake. They're accusing Trump of exposing America's blackmailing nature, a charge that's less about diplomacy and more about drawing a line in the sand. Beijing's already retaliating, mirroring Trump's moves with their own levies, and they're not stopping there. This tit-for-tat isn't new. China's been a thorn in Trump's side since his first term, but the scale now is unprecedented. With the U.S. importing over $400 billion in goods from China last year, that 50% hike could tack on billions in costs, hammering American consumers and businesses already reeling from Canada's pushback. While Trump digs in, Wall Street's ringing the alarm. On April 7, 2025, J.P. Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon, the titan of American finance, dropped a bombshell in his annual shareholder letter. Tariffs will slow U.S. growth and fuel inflation, he warned, painting a picture of an economy already buckling under its own weight. This isn't some fringe economist crying wolf. It's the head of America's biggest bank, staring down a policy he says could tip the U.S. and the world into chaos. Dimon's not alone. The markets are screaming it too, and the clock's ticking. Dimon's blunt. The U.S. economy was already weakening before Trump's April 2nd tariff bomb. Years of $11 trillion in government spending propped up growth, but cracks were showing: sticky inflation, high deficits, and overvalued stocks. Now, Trump's 25% car tariff and threats against China are one large additional straw on the camel's back. Prices are set to spike, not just on imports but domestic goods too, as costs ripple through supply chains. J.P. Morgan's economists say it's a 2% jolt to the consumer price index, enough to keep inflation burning when the Fed's already struggling to douse it. That's the raw truth as it stands. What's your call? Can Canada break Tesla? Will Trump's gamble pay off? Hit the comments, subscribe, and stay tuned. We're not done digging into this mess. See you next time.